Hey, I'm Scott.
And I'm Melissa.
And this is the
Walsh Fam Podcast.
Yeah, hey, and welcome back to the Walsh Fam Podcast, where two people talk about life with you people. I'm Scott Walsh, and I'm joined, as always, by my wife, the incredible Melissa Walsh.
Hello.
Great introduction, Melissa. Why don't we jump straight into our candle review for the week? What are we going to be trying out today?
Well, why don't you give me a drum roll, Scott? I know how much you love them. Today's candle is the Applewood and Amber Crackling Woodwick candle from Target. This is Threshold. And it was in a little gift basket I got recently from our friends, Cece and Shane.
Absolutely. So another crackling wick like we had last week. We know we love those. What was the scent one more time?
Applewood and Amber.
Applewood and Amber.
Plus Amber, because they're fancy and they did a plus, not an and.
Oh, that's interesting. That's different.
That's how I would do it. I'm going to light it now.
Okay, well, as always, we're going to be lighting that now, smelling it, and enjoying it throughout the episode, and then giving you our rating and review at the end of the episode, so definitely don't want to miss that. How exciting. Thanks, Melissa. So what are we going to be talking about on today's episode?
Today's episode is all about jobs.
Jobs. Yeah. Jobs are interesting. It's one of those things that almost everyone has.
Yeah, well, we all need money.
I don't think people, speaking for myself, you don't realize like how much time you commit to a job.
Yeah, about 40 hours plus for us.
For most people, yeah. But it's this weird thing where it's like, you know, sometimes you can not think about it for a long time. Like you just end up in a job, you go about it. It's very normal, very regular. And then you realize like, oh my gosh, I'm here 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Like you spend a lot of times at jobs. So it's very important the jobs you pick.
Absolutely. The only thing I'm more committed to than my job is my marriage.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
How nice is
Though,
that?
like, I don't spend more time with anybody than I do work or you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting. So today we're going to be breaking down all of the jobs that we've had.
Oh boy.
Over the years. I think it could be interesting to kind of take that trip down memory road to kind of where we started with our jobs and where we're at now and kind of everything in between. And along the way, kind of sharing stories, rating and reviewing some of the experiences we've had. And
I didn't know we were rating and reviewing.
We don't have to rate them, but just talking about the good and the bad and the in between. So it could be interesting. But we've both worked a lot of different jobs.
We've been around in the job market.
Yeah.
In our very local areas.
Yeah. I feel like it's very normal these days, especially for people to have a lot of different jobs over the years. I think especially for an older generation, like our parents, their parents, it was very normal to get into a job and then be there for 30 years, for 40 years, and then retire. I feel like today it's much more normal for people to bounce around looking for the right thing. I'm
sure there's like an actual number out there, but I feel like somewhere in my brain I'm remembering that the average like person is at a job for 4 years.
For 4 years, okay.
It might be lower than that, actually.
Well, that probably...
I don't know.
I guess it takes into account the people that are at a job for 30, 40 years, as well as the people that hop in for a couple months and bounce somewhere else. So.
As I often say, I don't know anything. You know, I think I know these things. I don't know that that's true, so don't hold me to it.
Is that something you often say? That you don't know anything?
I do say that very often.
That's okay. We're all just making it up as we go. Well, I think even for myself, it's interesting to look back and realize how many jobs I've had. Yeah. It doesn't seem like that much because at the time, you know, it's just normal. You know, you move here, you move there. But when you look back, it's like, oh my gosh, I've worked at, you know, so many different places.
Yeah. I didn't really realize I had worked at. I made a list. I was like, oh, my first job. And then I was like, and my second and my third and my fourth.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you had asked me, I would have said, oh, I've probably had like 5 jobs. But I think it's more than that. I don't think you realize how many over the years you're in and then you're out and you go do something else. So.
What was your first job?
My first job. We're going to get into it here.
Sure.
So my first job was at Ellisville Athletic Association. This was the local ballpark by my house. I grew up playing baseball there, and when I was 15, I got a job umpiring baseball games.
That's so cute.
I know, it was cute. I wore like this blue uniform and I had to get gray pants. I remember.
Oh, that's very specific.
Yeah, and they had to be like somewhat athletic so you could like move in them pretty well. But where do you go to get gray? They couldn't be sweatpants. So I had to get like slacks kind of.
Oh, to ump?
Yeah, to ump. Had to
That
be gray
sounds
pants.
like a hard pant to squat in.
Well, it was a hard pant to find, if I remember. I remember with my mom trying to find gray pants.
Good old Pam.
And we went to, I don't know where we went, but we ended up finding some, but they were massive.
Well, if anyone could do it, it would be her.
Sure, but I remember being upset because I wanted to look like cool and professional.
Course.
First off, they give you the polos. It's like a light blue. It's like a powder blue. So you all match. The polos they gave me were massive. And I was a somewhat small kid, like normal height, but I was very thin.
Oh, you were scrawny.
Like rail thin.
Yes.
And I was swimming in this polo. And then we go to find gray pants, and I want something that's like trim and like looks good on me, nice fit.
You're like, where are the skinny jeans?
The only thing we could find were these pants that were so baggy and so long that they bunched up at the bottom, and they were like 3 times as wide as my legs. And so I remember going out there, and I'm just a kid, I'm 15. So my confidence is already low, and now my outfit is like massive, and I look like a complete dork. Interesting. And then you go out, and I've got to umpire for these kids that are like a couple years younger than me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize growing up playing baseball, I was 15 umping, and I was umpiring like 11-year-olds baseball games.
Yeah.
And then there's dads who are the coaches, and they're like shouting at me, and I'm like, I'm also just a child. It's a really weird world. And there were people that umpired there. Like, I was in the middle of the pack at 15. There were 13, 14-year-olds umpiring there. I'm like, how do they even interact with these parents and stuff?
Yeah, that would be kind of scary. And especially if you do that now, imagine. I feel like parents are a little more aggressive now.
Yeah.
And so could you imagine doing that job today? I think even at whatever age you are now, somebody asked me your birthday. Oh, I was at a doctor's appointment. They asked me for your birthday, and I was like, oh, no. I always get the year wrong. Anyway, but could you imagine doing that job now? I think it would still be scary.
I think it would be. I was lucky. I don't remember anything in particular, but I remember all the coaches being very good with me. No one yelled at me too much. I had, a couple of them ask about calls, complain about calls, but they were very level-headed. I didn't have anyone blow up at me.
Sure.
So it's a good experience. I remember I made $20 a game.
Oh, that's pretty good. How long is a game?
It wasn't bad. Game was like an hour and a half, maybe hour 40.
That was a high rate for that time.
I know. Yeah. But it was hit or miss because it was only really during the summer. You never really knew how many games you were going to get.
Sure.
So
you don't need that much money when you're 15, to be honest.
It was great. I loved it. It was, I was young. It was close by home. I could ride my bike there to work before I was driving. So it worked out fantastic. It was fun. It was fun. I wouldn't want to do it for a career, but it was all right.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. So what about you, Melissa? Where did you start your professional journey?
Well, before I tell you what my first job was, I have a noteworthy experience before that.
Oh.
So before my first job, the first place I applied at a local pizza restaurant. I'm not going to name the name of it. My dad kind of knew like one of the managers there.
Stephanie knows.
No. Don't guess. And he set up the interview, and I think I turned in an application, but I didn't really set this up. I wasn't super excited about it, but I was excited, however, to have money and have a job. So, but I was so nervous when I was a teenager and a kid and all up until my adult life. I was very shy, very quiet, which anyone who knows me now would be like, who, you? Yeah. But I was the shyest. And so I was terrified to go into this interview, but I did. And I remember my dad taught me have a firm handshake and look him in the eye. And this is probably like a 40-something-year-old man. So I walked in and I gave the firmest handshake. And it wasn't just firm. It was like knuckle crushing. Like this, his hand was like limp, and I grabbed it and shook it. Oh my gosh. And I was so embarrassed.
I can picture that so much because your dad is the type to put so much emphasis on the firm handshake.
Yes. Yeah. He's like a good old boy. Like that is important. And so I thought that I was going to have a firm handshake back, but it was like a noodle.
And you were skinny and you were tall and you've got these long fingers.
I was scrawny.
And bony. So you probably crunched him with your bony fingers.
He was probably in pain, to be honest, because I'm nervous and I think it's so important. So I just gave the firmest I was like confident. I went for it and then I was like...
And pretty certain you didn't get that job.
I didn't get the job.
I don't know if it was related to the handshake. Probably not.
Probably not. But to me, in my mind, it was the handshake.
That's wild.
Is why I didn't get the job. It was obviously because I was so quiet and shy.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway, I'm glad I didn't get the job. My first job was not that much better. I applied to be a waitress at a local barbecue restaurant that's no longer in business. And I was too quiet in my interview, so they said, no, but you could be a busser. And so I was a busser at a very, very small, like hole-in-the-wall barbecue restaurant. It was a family-owned restaurant. There were like 6 servers total that worked there. And some of them didn't like me because I was the first busser they had ever had.
What?
And
was it a new restaurant?
It was a new restaurant,
okay.
Yeah. But I was the first busser they ever had, and part of the way they set it up and they were testing it out was that I would get a percentage of their tips.
Yeah.
So they would pay in, I think it was 20%, no, it was 15% of all their tips, and I would end up leaving with the same amount of tips because if they're all working, they're all making tips, and then I get 15% of all of it.
Because the waiters would have different sections, but you would bus all of the sections.
Yes, I would do the whole restaurant because it wasn't super big. But yeah, so I would leave with all the tips and they would be like, oh, I don't want to have to pay her. But anyway, I liked it.
How much money were you bringing in?
I don't know because I got paid like a prorated rate because when you work in the service industry,
like a low hourly
you don't make
rate.
like minimum wage or whatever. I think I probably made like
$5 or something.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
But then you get tips and it's expected that will boost you up.
Yeah.
How long did you work there?
Not that long, like a matter of months, probably like 4 or 6 months. And I have one horror story from working there.
Oh, yeah. I think I've heard this before.
So I bust all the tables. Barbecue food is gross. Like, it's like...
Not to eat.
No, but there's like barbecue sauce on the plates and it's like baked beans and coleslaw. You know, it's not like a clean food to serve.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I bust this table and then I went back in the kitchen to drop off the plates and they asked me to run out a bowl of baked beans.
No.
I slipped and I dropped them on an 8-year-old boy. And he cried and I was so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
I never ever wanted to go back.
You beaned the poor boy.
I beat the poor boy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare. I've never worked in the food industry. And that's your only job you've had in the food industry.
Yeah.
It doesn't appeal to me very much. I get grossed out like doing the dishes at our house.
I
don't want to touch other people's food and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's a great job for a lot of people. It's good.
Sure.
It's social. I think you learn a lot there.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a job that has to be done.
Yeah.
But I do think that everyone should work in some sort of service industry, whether it's retail or fast food or restaurant, whatever.
Something
I think it's such a
customer-facing.
good experience.
So you have to get used to interacting with people.
Sure. Well, and you kind of appreciate it too, because those are things that everybody, everybody goes to places like that, and it just makes you think before being a little turd when you're at those places.
Yeah. Sometimes you see people just completely disrespecting fast food workers or retail workers, and it's like, you must not have worked in those environments, because if you have the experience of working there, then you can understand later down the road, like, be nice to these people. Like, it's a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Tip
a
a
good
little
thought.
more.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of tipping more than you have to.
Yeah.
Just because.
Absolutely. When you can, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first job. I was a busser.
Nice.
I had a barbecue restaurant.
Nice.
What was your next job?
So after umpiring, my next job was at Kohls department store.
Iconic.
Absolutely.
I've heard so many stories.
Oh, it took up a large portion of my high school career. I was with Kohls. I worked in the shoe department. I started there when I was 16, which was a bit of an exception because normally you have to be 17 to work at Kohls. But I had an in because my sister worked there. She's a couple years older than me. And
the Walsh kids at Kohls.
yeah, we were a bit of a dynasty. But I think I ended up crumpling the dynasty.
I have a feeling.
So my sister is a couple years older than me, infinitely more responsible and respectful of a person than me. She is a rule follower to the T. She is very studious. She got awesome grades all through school. She was always studying. She always did everything that was asked of her. Me, on the other hand, not as much. I was an okay kid, but
Yeah.
I'm not the boilerplate rule follower. So because my sister had worked there and done such a great job, they're like, we need to get that other Walsh kid. We need to get him in here. If he's even anything like his sister, we need him in the Kohls family.
Boy, were they wrong.
Yeah. And so I started a year early at 16. They put me in the shoe department under the leadership of Betsy. And you know what? No hard feelings to Betsy, but the shoe department, snooze fest. Oh my gosh.
Who would have thought?
As a 16-year-old, 17-year-old boy, what am I'm just putting shoes in boxes and tidying them up all day. You know what? Nothing against Kohls, because at the time I loved Kohls. I love shopping there. But as a workplace, snooze fest, major snooze fest. Yeah.
What was the most played song at Kohls while you worked there?
Oh my gosh. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'll anytime we're out now, I'll call it out to you. When we're out in
Yes.
public and we hear a song, I'm like,
Life is a Highway?
no, not Life is a Highway.
Oh, wait, that's something
No.
else.
It's
Anything
like
Colby Calais.
Colby Calais. It's like old Andy Grammer songs, like the most generic, bland pop songs you can think of.
I love Colby Calais.
I know, but it's such like easy, soft listening. Like, man, I can hear a song now and get flashbacks to just the shoe department at Kohls, hearing the same soundtrack over and over at nights. I would work in the evenings because of school. I'd get home, eat dinner, and then go work from like 7 till 11. Kohls closed at like, I don't know if it was 10 or 11, but I think it was 11 some nights on the
late
weekend.
night.
We'd work till 11 and then till like 11:30 after they closed to finish tidying up and stuff. I remember one time getting off at 11:30, going to a gas station to fill up, and a cop comes up to me and talks to me, and he's like, how old are you? I was like 16 or 17 at the time. He's like, you're not supposed to be out past 11 or 11:30. I forget what he said, but apparently there was
curfew.
some curfew
Yeah.
for younger kids.
That's still
and I
in-
was like, what do you want me to do? I just got off work. And he was like giving me some attitude. And I'm like,
You were breaking the rules, bud.
I guess, but like, I just got off work. Like, I'm not out here causing trouble. Like, it was interesting. But yeah, no hate to the Kohls out there. I love Kohls. You know, we support you. But it ended interestingly between Kohls and I. I think we kind of came to a mutual agreement that we were just going to kind of break the partnership. There were a couple shifts, I think, that I didn't quite make it to.
Was it mutual or did you stop going?
Well, I kind of had stopped going, and then they kind of said, let's part ways. And my silence, I think, was me saying, I agree, let's part ways. But I worked there for probably 2 years, like my junior and
Yeah.
senior years. I worked there a long time.
Do you think that you could have left more responsibly
Absolutely.
for the kids out there watching?
Oh, absolutely. I was a twerp.
Don't be a Scott.
Look, I did fine. I wasn't like stealing things. I wasn't like showing up and like just being terrible on the job. I helped people. I tidied up the thing. I did everything I needed to do. I just didn't take it too seriously. And I had fun. Later down the road, I had some friends start working at Kohls with me. For some reason, they saw my performance and were like, we want more of that.
Wow.
Bring in these friends of Scott. So I had a couple buddies start working there, and we'd get into some antics, but I was all right. I was all right at Kohls. I did an okay job, but long term wasn't for me.
That's
Wasn't for
okay.
me.
Not all jobs are.
And also, I'll tell you, Kohls is one of the places where, now those of you who don't know, I go by my middle name, Scott. My full name, David Scott Walsh Jr. Kohls is one of the places where I went by David. Because when
You didn't want to correct them, I'm sure.
I know, especially as a kid, I was so shy and stuff. I fill out all the paperwork, and my legal name is David. So then when I show up for my first day of work, here's your name tag, David. You know, like all of our paperwork and our scheduling and stuff, David. So for 2 years at Kohls, I was like, I'm David here. And I would have people come in, like family or friends or whatever. They're like, hey, is Scott working?
He'd be like,
And
no.
we don't employ a Scott. And then, I don't know, but.
Yeah.
So, interesting time at Kohls. But yeah, that was from probably, I guess, like 16 to 18, like my junior and senior years of high school. I was at Kohls. Yeah. Slinging some shoes.
Shoe slinger Scott.
Yeah. Okay. Where'd you go after the barbecue restaurant?
Well, so while I worked at the barbecue restaurant, I didn't really have intentions of leaving, but my friends and I, like, our go-to thing when we were having fun was to go shopping. So this new resale shop opened, and I don't know, my friend Kristen was like, let's go. And I was like, okay. So we went, and I walked in and she was trying stuff on, and I was telling her if it looked good or didn't look good. And then, like, out of nowhere, I just walked up to the guy behind the counter and I was like, are you hiring? And he was like, sure, you can be hired. And it was the owner. And I was like, what?
It was the owner?
Yes.
Okay, that's
It was the owner, Eric. Shout out, Eric. And he was like, yeah, you don't really have to apply or anything. Like, you could just work here if you want. Because he had seen me, like, helping someone with clothes, so he assumed I knew something about fashion.
So
it was
weird.
probably the first time in my whole life I was ever confident. And so I was like, for some reason, I was like, no, it's okay. I'll apply. Like, and I had him give me an application, and I still, like, filled it out and brought it back. But he was like, yeah, you really, like, don't have to do that. But anyway, I did. That was, like, my favorite job ever. That was in high school. I worked that job, and I also kept working at the barbecue restaurant, and I didn't have my license yet. So my dad was just, like, taxi chauffeuring me from job to job to job to job to home to school.
You didn't get your license until like 18.
No, I didn't. I didn't get it right away. But
Weirdo.
I don't know why. I just didn't feel like I was in a rush. Yeah. Well, once I, got more into my job, I eventually did get it, but I didn't.
You worked there for a long time. That was where you worked when we first started dating.
Yes, yeah. I really liked working there. Like, I thought it was so fun. I loved getting to, like, look at clothes when they came in or make new displays. I loved talking to people all day. I just, like, enjoyed it a lot. I started there as an associate, and then I became a key holder, and then I became assistant manager. And I ended up working there for a little over 4 years, I think. And I stopped working at the barbecue restaurant, and I don't know, I really liked it, and I kind of, like, got my interest in fashion while working there, so it was cool. I liked it a lot. Yeah,
it was your first foray into the world of retail,
yes,
which you would kind of then live in for a little while.
Yes, yeah. I was not a star student by any means, and I'm not ashamed of that. That is just what it was. And I would, like, skip school and text my boss and be like, hey, can I just come work today instead? Like, I would just go to work. And eventually I ended up doing, like, a work program through school. So I was able to do half day at school and then go work. And anyway, I enjoyed it a lot.
I think it was while you were working there that I did my first modeling gig.
You did, yes. Yeah, the iconic, we had a punch card, like, loyalty system, and we were like, we need a guy on here, because we had a small guys section, but we never really, like, showed stuff on guys.
And they were like, Melissa, do you know anyone, like, just, like, super attractive, young adult male, like, just handsome beyond belief? And you're like, no, but my boyfriend is free.
I did. I got you in there. It was a lot of fun.
That was fun. Yeah, I still remember the picture of us all jumping into the air.
Yes, I think I have a few punch cards. I, like, saved them as memories in a little memory box somewhere.
Nice. Okay, well, let's see. Where did I go after Kohls?
Yeah, because you went to college.
Then I went to college.
What did you do then?
So I didn't work during the school years at college.
Eventually you did, though, right? Oh, not during the school year. Sorry.
No, not really. I don't think I ever really did during the school years. But during the summers, I got a job. In fact, right across the street from Kohls was the Home Depot.
Yes.
Which I think was a bit of a better fit than Kohls. I worked as a cashier. Yeah. Which was still just kind of like a boring retail job. But I think the environment of Home Depot was just a little bit more entertaining than Kohls.
Yeah. A little more interesting.
So I worked there, I think, a couple summers. I don't remember exactly which ones, but when I was in college, I worked a few summers back by my parents' house when I go back over the summers at Home Depot. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, I was just talking about my memories. box that I have, I know for sure that I have some like drawings on Home Depot receipts that you drew for me.
I remember doing those. I know I did one of a dog.
Yes. Oh, and anytime a dog would come in and visit, you would always get a picture and send it to me, and I loved it.
That's true. I love that Home Depot allows pets in there.
Yeah.
Because almost every day, especially when it was nice out during the summers, you'd have people coming in with their dogs. And it's like, you're telling me while I'm working, I get to like pet dogs. And we had treats for them up at the registers always. I was like, that's a nice perk.
Very nice.
That was fun.
Nice.
I will say also, I'll kind of double up here because I don't remember the exact timeline, but there was one summer when I was at college. Do you remember when, I don't even know what to call it, but I nannied?
You were a manny.
I was a manny.
Yeah, for the summer.
Wow. That's right. That's right. So I didn't know if you would remember this, but we were dating at the time.
Yeah.
And it was like a friend of a friend. I was looking for a job for the summer, and they were looking for a guy because they had two boys that they needed someone to watch. And I guess they wanted a guy for them. And I got recommended from like a friend of a friend that my family knew. And I was like, why not? Here we go. I could go, work another summer at Home Depot, or I could go back to Kohls, or I could go do this. And it was fun. So they were like, I don't remember, but they were like 7 and 10 or something like that. Like elementary school. Maybe the older one was like almost middle school, but I think elementary school. And I would go over and we would hang out. They would practice their piano. They would do their homework. I would cook them mac and cheese.
It's perfect for you.
Specifically the Annie's white cheddar mac and cheese.
Oh, okay.
We had like every day for lunch. I became an expert. I didn't need the instructions.
Yeah.
Just give me a pot of water. I can get it going. I know it perfectly. We'd go outside and play in the backyard soccer. We'd watch Mickey Mouse downstairs.
I remember when you had this job, I was working one of my retail jobs. I didn't go to college, so I was working full time already.
Right.
And you would be like, oh yeah, we're like having mac and cheese and watching a movie. And I would be like, it's the middle of the day. Like, what's happening? Like, what is happening?
I don't know. It was a weird thing. I never would have expected that'd be something for me. I'm not very great with kids, but I guess I'm all right.
I feel like you're better now, but definitely like before we had our nieces and stuff, you were a little bit like, ew, kids.
I would have never thought of something like that for me, but I think I did all right. Yeah. And I remember on the last day we went to like a water park and then we got ice cream. Like it was fun. It was fun. It was just for a few months. I think I got paid.
Just the summer.
I think I got paid $11 an hour, which was, at Kohls I was making like $7.25 an hour, which was minimum wage. So I mean, anything was better than that. So.
Yeah. Plus, you got free mac and cheese every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. It wasn't bad.
Very nice.
Okay, but where did you go after your first retail job? Where'd you go to next?
Actually, there is a little in between. For some reason in my head, because I liked my job so much and I thought it was fun, I got in my brain, like, Melissa, you need to grow up and you need to get a 9 to 5.
Oh my gosh.
And so I went on Indeed and I applied to all these jobs and nobody was interested in me. And this one very small business of 3 people, it was like a little tech company. They called and interviewed me, and it was literally just like a converted house that the whole house was converted into an office building. And I went in for my interview and they hired me, and it was an office desk job. I was like a secretary basically, but nobody worked out of the building. So it was just me every day. And I, at that point, had been able to be at a social job every day for 4 years. And I freaked out after like a week. I was like, this is the most boring job. I can't do this ever again. Dude, and I quit.
I completely forgot that you ever did that until you just brought it up. That was that was the most random part of your life.
Yeah, it was.
You were there for like 2 weeks?
I think less than 2 weeks.
And the circumstances around your departure were kind of fun. Let's be real. If we're being honest with ourselves, we were going, my family, as a family.
Before you say what you're about to say, I had already decided that I was going to leave this job.
That's not how I remember it.
But the timing was right for what you're about to say.
We were going on a weekend trip down to the lake with my family. Melissa was invited. We were all going to head out, I'm guessing, like Friday.
Yeah.
but you had to work on Friday, of course. So you were going to come down Saturday or later Friday night. And you were like, I don't want to go down there a day late. I'll just quit my job. So you show up down there the same day, and all of my family is like, I thought you were supposed to be working. And it was like, no, she quit. She wanted to come to the lake a day earlier.
That's not why I quit, but it was like, I was like, why would I do this another day? I have to leave. Like, I literally was going crazy sitting there all day, and I would bring my lunch, and I had an hour lunch break, and I would bring my little salami sandwich, and I would eat it in like 3 minutes, and then I'd be like, what am I supposed to do with my time now?
And it was just you there.
It was just me.
Oh my gosh.
I would just like go walk around Target or like...
That's awful for you. You're such a social person that
it was so depressing.
I can't imagine how terrible that was.
It was not fun. And so I left.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good fit. So I was out of there.
So where to after that?
After that, I applied at another local boutique. So this wasn't a resale shop, but it was just a boutique, and I got a job as an assistant manager somewhere, and then climbed up to manager. And then eventually I ended up doing social media for that company. It's a pretty well-known boutique in the area. I will not name names, but it was fun. I liked it. Again, I just enjoy, like, first of all, I love a good sales goal. Like, tell me I need to make X amount of money and I'm going to make it. Or tell me I can pick a sweater for free and I'm going to earn that sweater. So I really enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed working with the girls that I worked with. They were super fun. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Another fun job.
You spent a lot of your early working career in retail.
Yes, I did.
Kind of crushed it. Like, there's no reason that you couldn't be extremely successful in that field. You were very well suited for it.
You know, I worked in that industry for 8 years. I think total, 7 or 8 years total.
Yeah.
And maybe more than that. I don't know. I'm not good at math. But I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I do feel like relatively well educated in that field, and like I could maybe do something with that one day.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I do. I mean, my job now is not far off. So I've all the things I learned at those jobs, and now I'm where I'm at now. That there are jobs in between that.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the job that we both had together?
Yeah.
Is that where we're at?
Oh, sure. Close enough. We can go to that. Yeah. There's one job that Melissa and I both worked at the same time together.
For no reason.
Yeah. This was, what year was this? 2021? 2021.
It was, yes. Yeah.
It was mid-pandemic.
It was.
But we bought our house in August of 2020.
Yes.
And then we got this job the next year.
Yeah.
So Melissa and I both, for a couple months.
We had other jobs.
Yeah. But we decided, hey, we've got all this free time, like in the evenings and on the weekends.
We're going to boss up. We're going to make so much money and just save it. And, you know, we're young. We should just be working all the time and saving our money.
We did none of that. But we worked at Home Depot.
We did. We worked at Home Depot. Bleed orange.
Yeah, my old stomping grounds, Home Depot. We bled orange for a short time there.
Very briefly.
Yeah. I worked up at the registers again because that was my old stomping ground. Very familiar there. And you worked in the garden center?
I moved around a little. So I started, when we both did that, I was going to be part-time because I had another full job. And so I worked in the garden area. I thought that would be fun. I liked plants and stuff. And I thought it would be like good exercise too, because you're like loading stuff and moving around and you're outside and inside. I just thought I would like it. But eventually I did not want to work the job that I was working, and I was like, I'll come full time if you'll have me. And they put me in the flooring department.
Yeah, they made you a flooring specialist.
Yes, I was a flooring specialist.
And you made more money than I did.
I did make more money.
Even though I'd worked at Home Depot for like years before this.
I had a higher hourly rate.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's such a weird time in our life.
I remember
telling that to our family and friends, and everyone was like, oh, okay. Like,
the
why?
looks.
So we both had like decent paying full-time jobs.
Yes.
We weren't like desperate for money. Like,
we really looked at it like a hobby or like a fun, like do it for the plot.
Yeah, we were like, we've got all this time that we're not doing anything with. Let's go work, make a ton of money, and then we'll have more money. And it just didn't, after a while, it was like, this isn't that fun.
We were like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, why are we working? We could be at home.
I'll tell you one thing I was excited about when we started working there. Well, they put you through all these like training videos and stuff, and they're talking about, so you wear an apron, and they're talking about how you can earn these patches. And I was like, I'm going to earn every patch.
Did you ever earn a single patch?
I didn't earn a single
Me
patch.
neither.
Wasn't around long enough.
No, I don't
But
remember.
some people had so many.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
Yeah, I just wasn't that committed.
Yeah.
That was a weird time.
I think that that was one of our worst ideas. I don't think that it was good.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I look back on that and I'm like, why did we do that? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, we did.
Yeah. So anyways, that was jumping ahead a little bit, but to go back to me, so I did Home Depot over the summers. I did nannying one summer, manning, very manly. And then I graduated college and I got my first full-time job out in the workforce.
Like a grown-up.
I know. It felt like that.
It did.
This was around the time, this was just before we got married. This was just before I proposed to you. So it was very much like, okay, I'm going to graduate college. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get married. And like, that's that. So this was like my big boy job. It was fantastic. But I got a job doing AV installation with a company for Boeing.
Yeah.
The airplane manufacturer.
Yes.
And I worked there for, a year and a half, installing equipment in conference rooms. It was relatively boring, sub for the fact that it was at Boeing, which was very cool. In St. Louis, where we live, Boeing has a really large headquarters, and it's the center for their defense manufacturing. So fighter jets, missile systems, drones, all that stuff. So I'd walk into these rooms where I'm going to go install a television and some speakers and stuff. And they've got dry erase boards that are like detailing all the countries that they're sending missiles to and things like that. I'm like, this is some really, high profile information. I don't know if I should have access to this. So that was kind of the fun part about that job.
Yeah, that's very cool.
But that was working in offices doing conference room equipment, and then the pandemic happened and that got scrapped because Boeing was like, no one's coming into the office. We're not going to pay to have these conference rooms redone.
Yeah.
So then I had to kind of transition out of that, but yeah. After a couple months of being out of work at that time.
And probably making more on unemployment. Pandemic unemployment
honestly,
was like prorated or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it didn't skip a beat.
It wasn't awful. I wasn't in an extreme hurry right away to get back to work, but I did. After a couple months, I think. Went back to the same company, just doing a different job, which was now in like warehousing and logistics and stuff, which was kind of interesting. Inventory management, that sort of thing. So kind of different, a little boring. We don't have to go into it. I mean, it was just a job.
Yeah. I remember somewhere around those two jobs, people would always say like, oh, what does your husband do? And I would say, oh, he's an AV technician. And they'd be like, huh? Like they would not know what that meant. So eventually I started telling people, oh, he plugs things in.
Yeah. And that's still what you tell people to today.
Sometimes I do, because sometimes I'm a little confused about what you do.
Yeah. It's not a job or a work area that's very like commonly known.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we would ever switch jobs.
Definitely not.
Could you imagine?
No.
I can't imagine.
No. Okay. Where were you at?
Okay. I was at the boutique, and then I was at Home Depot, and then I ended up going back to the boutique world. But I signed a non-compete at the last boutique I was working at for 2 years. I could not manage another boutique. So I went in as like, I don't really know what my title was, but I kind of was helping this boutique. I did some social media for them. And when I was there one day, this girl that I used to partner with at another place, like we did a collab, came in and she was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know, but we talked a little and we just chatted, and I guess she had gone back and talked to who is now my boss at J. Bloom and told her that I was there. And then I got a call from Jen and at J. Bloom, and she was like, come work for me. And we had thought about working together before, like way back when, and it didn't work out timing wise. And this time it all just fell into place really well with where I was at, where they were at, and their needs. And now that's where I'm at now, J Bloom, doing social media full time, which I really love.
Yeah. It's been a good job for you. You've been there 2 or 3 years.
Going on, it'll be 3 years this summer, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good fit. I really like it. I get to travel a little. My number one thing at a job, like my biggest flaw, people are always like, I'm too organized or something. My biggest flaw at any job is that I get bored. Like, and once I get bored, I'm like, oh, I just can't not do it. So I could never get bored at this job. Because social media just changes all the time. There's always a new trend to follow. There's always, more people that we can help or another trip coming up. It's just, I can't get bored. I love it. It's been really good.
Yeah, it's been a good fit.
Yeah. We're heading off on a trip soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll be in Cancun next week and I'll be here in the cold.
Yeah, it's about 0 degrees outside today. And I just looked at the weather for my trip and it's high of 84 every day. It'll be great. Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Well, I'll fast forward. I think we're getting a little long-winded here. I'll fast forward through my last couple. I went to another job in AV, but this time in live events. So I was operating audio, speakers, video, lighting for corporate events and things like that, which was entertaining, but it was a lot of nights and weekends.
Yeah.
As you'll remember. And I traveled from time to time too, across the Midwest, different cities sometimes for events. And it was...
I was so lonely.
I know. Yeah. It was fun sometimes doing these trips to get to go to a new city. And I would always like to go out and try different restaurants and stuff like that while I was out there, try to have a good time. But at the end of the day, it was just, me sitting in a hotel room for a couple days and you were back here alone. I was like, I'd kind of rather be home with my wife.
Yeah.
And then working on the evenings, working on the weekends, it was just getting in the way of a lot of family time and a lot of friend time. Transition out of that and into my role that I'm in now, was back into AV installation, this time as a project manager.
Yeah, you do some cool projects.
We do, yeah. We do a lot of high dollar projects, projects that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, big installations, big auditoriums, things like that. So
answer me this.
Yeah.
Do you still plug things in?
I do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then I don't have to change.
We've got to do a lot of troubleshooting sometimes. And the first thing you check is like, unplug it, plug it back in. 90% of the times that'll fix your problem.
Yeah.
So, it's very high tech and very fancy, but at the same time, a lot of it is just very simple. Yeah. But it's been fun. It's been good. I've been there for almost 6 months now and it's been a really good fit.
Very cool.
Man, what a roller coaster of different careers we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All over the place.
It's interesting to look back on and think about all of those ones. I don't find myself too often thinking about my umpiring days or my Kohls days, the shoe department days.
Yeah.
So it's been fun talking about it, Melissa.
It is fun to talk about.
Anything else you got to add before we get to our candle review?
No, I think I will say, okay, then the answer is yes. I will say, I think that we're both in jobs that are a really good fit for us right now. Like, absolutely. I really like where we're at.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people our age, our friends, in the groups you hang out with and stuff, jobs are important. You spend, like I said, you spend so much time there. So the process in your 20s of kind of getting out of school, getting into the workforce, it takes some time sometimes to try out different things until you find something that's a good fit. But I feel like all along the way, we've gotten things that are better and better fits for us. And now we're in places
along the way.
Yeah.
I like where we're at.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for us.
Absolutely. Very exciting.
I cannot get over how crackly this candle is.
Yeah.
I've heard it the whole time. I'm nervous that we're going to hear the whole podcast is going to be that.
Let's see if y'all can hear it.
Dare I say it's cracklier than the wood wick?
I think you're right. And that's the thing. Woodwick's claim to fame is the crackling wick. But
they invented it.
This one from Target here is crackling a lot.
Don't tilt it.
And it smells nice too.
Let me give it away. This whole room does smell very, very nice.
All right, Melissa. Well, what do you have a rating in mind for the Applewood and Amber candle?
Yes. I always say that, but I don't actually. Hang on.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it too. It's interesting. Of course, as always, we're rating out of 100 because 10 is just not enough.
Okay, I have my rating.
Well, I went first last time, so this time I'm going to make you go first so you can't copy me.
Okay. I didn't copy you.
Well, I said 76, you said 77. It's pretty close.
I would never copy you. My rating for this candle is 83.
Ooh, that's pretty high.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's good.
Nice.
It smells very pleasant in here.
I agree. It's a complex flavor. Or scent, I should say.
And it is getting extra points for the crackle. I love a good crackling candle because it just fills the room with a warmness.
Yeah, like an atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's not just a scent, it's a sound. So it's like two senses that it adds to. And this thing is crackling like crazy. It's louder than the woodwick.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. It's nice. I'm not going to go quite as high as you, but I'll give it a 78.
Okay. You're usually a little stingier with your ratings, to be honest.
I don't hand out points just for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, that's a good showing for the Applewood and Amber candle.
I would recommend you check this one out.
Absolutely.
From Target.
Yeah. My threshold from Target.
Yeah. From CC and Shane.
Oh, well, Melissa, that was a fun time talking about jobs. We want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, this has been the Walsh Fam Podcast. You can catch us every single Monday, wherever you listen to your podcast, unless it's somewhere weird. Don't listen to podcasts somewhere weird. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, all of the places. Melissa, where can they find us on social media?
Find us on social media at Walsh Fam Podcast or at Walsh Fam STL.
Absolutely. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.